Welcome to Power, People and Planet. I'm Kumi Naidoo, and I want this podcast to break the definition of who is an activist. We have defined an activist as a person who works full-time for an NGO, trade union, and faith organization, and so on. We have to understand that that's an inadequate definition in this moment of history. Pessimism is a luxury we simply cannot afford. One of the key challenges that we face is that we are called upon to mobilize the largest ever level of popular participation and mobilization. And to do that, we'll need to rethink who is an activist. Greetings, everyone. Today, I'm super excited since we have a truly amazing guest. I just know him by Mundano, and everybody in Brazil just knows him as Mundano. But today I discovered he has a first name, which is Thiago. For transparency's sake, let me say that I feel like I've known Mundano for like 20 years. But actually, we only met in November 2024 in Salvador, in Brazil, when the Minister of Culture called a meeting as part of the G20, which was called Mobilizing the Power of Art and Culture to Address the Climate Crisis. And since then, it's been a wonderful love affair between both of us. I've been so inspired by all the things that he's done and continues to do. So Mundano, what I'd like to do at the beginning, rather than me saying all the amazing things that you have done, please tell us about your life journey, about growing up and how you land up doing the amazing things that you are doing today to work for a more just, a more equitable, and a more sustainable world so that our children can live in dignity.
Yes, let's go. So I am Thiago, as you say, my first name. I was born in São Paulo, Brazil. I am 39 years old. I dedicating my life to preserving of nature and also to change a little this inequality, this social contrast that we have in Brazil and also worldwide. So I am an artivist. I am using, I started doing art, then street art, graffiti, and now I'm doing bigger movements or artworks or stuff to make not my life, but because I am a privileged artist to be in Brazil, also a white man from middle class to have access to education, but how I can use this privilege to make the people and the planet better. So this is what drives me in the last 20 years to make everything. Yeah, I think from the early works, I was like doing more like other artists, street artists, painting the street. But then when I realized the power of doing public art, so art when everyone can see, like a democratic art, and how a message or a art or artivism could change people's lives, making it better. Was what makes me drives and started to do bigger steps. So I started to do exhibitions. I started to do big paintings in buildings, and I started to all the time make it a stronger position as an artist, a protest. So I was doing art as a tool of transformation, and that's what brings me to be here with you, Kumi, because I was not doing something for myself or only for I sell a painting. No, I was doing something to leave a legacy on this planet, and that drives me to be in positions and also to starting to travel all over the world. I love Brazil. So I was learning a lot with these exchanges between nations, people, waste speakers, activists. So this was this experience that I had was also a key thing to construct my position on this planet. Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Mundano. You also mentioned earlier that, and it was really nice to hear you say it, like both of us are men, and by reality, in the patriarchal world we live in, we have privilege just by being men. And then race, class, and all of the other things. What I find is quite often in our movements and all, we want to always pretend that we're all exactly the same, and that irrespective of whether you're an indigenous activist or whether you are a Afro-Brazilian activist, all the same. And what I've really learned from you this last year, of how comfortable you are in your skin, to not claim something that you're not. But what stands out is how all your work is focused on the people that do not have the same class background that you have. Right? I've been so impressed with the work you've done. We'll talk about it soon, detail in the Amazon, using the ashes and so on. But I want to start with the thing that what I understand from my friends in Brazil, that like exploded you across the country, which again was something to respect the dignity and celebrating the humanity of people who do some of the hardest work to keep our societies going. And that is waste pickers. In fact, people who are picking waste, whether it's in Brazil, Egypt, South Africa, or elsewhere, amongst the most exploited people. And you did this creative thing about giving dignity and support and uplifting them. I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but I think the project is called Pimp My Koroka. Is that correct?
Pimp yes, you made it great.
So tell us about Pimp My Koroka. This is truly something special. Please tell the story of what inspired you to do it, how you went about it, and how it's now happened. Your studio in late last year, I actually saw these vehicles that you had produced to support these waste pickers. So this is the journey that you followed.
Yes, so it's a long story in several cities and thousands of people that I met to got where we are, with amazing team also. But everything started with graffiti, with doing art on the streets, because doing graffiti, I was meeting people that are also the waste pickers, but are also sometimes homeless, sometimes living under a bridge. And I was painting the bridge. So then I was saying, can I paint your house here? Excuse me. And then I said, can I paint your car? So in a way, I was not asking for the mayor of the city authorization. I was talking to the ones that lives on the streets. And these contracts, and also because I learned that, for example, recycling is good for the planet. But then I saw people that were doing recycling was without any dignity, support, or was criminalized on the street, was invisible. And then we have the brands, the companies, the industry saying, doing greenwashing. So I think this is wrong. We have a big gap from the ones that actually are doing from just a speech, greenwashing. So with that, I started not only painting the carts that they push, that we call it, like you said, carroças, but so giving colors and make it look better. But in a way, I was also amplifying their voices because they have voices, but nobody was listening the waste picker voices. So when I started to write on the cards message and also use these pictures, for example, for social media also, or going to a front page of a newspaper, this was giving light to them, was giving visibility to them and amplifying their voice. And this injustice was so clear that this started to get viral on the media, viral on the streets, viral on the newspapers and everything. And I understood that, okay, I was doing great. I was giving visibility, also more self-esteem to them. But then I said, okay, I'm doing my part, but this is not enough. is not only in São Paulo, it's worldwide.
Mhm.
And then I started to invite more artists to do the same because it's you cannot the quantity, the volume of with speakers that I say that they are superheroes. Because Kumi, if we say that superheroes is the ones that are saving the planet, right? So if they are
Absolutely.
saving the planet, helping, so they are superheroes. But they have the worst of all superpowers because they are invisible. Nobody are notice this importance. And this is how I understand the power of artivism. And we created an NGO after years. So I am doing this for 18 years.
Wow.
In everywhere I travel, for example, when I went to South Africa, as you mentioned, I went before I go to see the Table Mountain. I was going to the Soeto's open dump to see how the waste coming in to meet the waste speakers from them. That also was not even from South Africa. They was from other countries. So this, in a way, changed my life to see not my city, São Paulo, but everywhere I travel, I try to go to the open dumps, to the landfill, or even on the streets that we can met the waste speakers working. And then I started to learn a different angle, looking the trash, the treasure, you see, and also to change my way to consumption and habits and trying to make better. But was when I opened the Pig Maca House and I found it, and I invite more artists and more volunteers, more partners, is how the movement grew. Because then we have different skills, different ideas, different talents, shining lights and giving a megaphone to them so they could be. And with that, we raised it, Pima Carroça raised it, not only the self-esteem and visibility, but we raised the earnings of the way speakers. Now
Uh-huh.
we just giving a big jump. Of course, we people now are noticed then, we achieved a lot, but now we are also trying to make their cart more efficiency. For example, electric tricycles, electric carts, or even creating an app, an application on the mobile phone, so you can find the closest waste speaker to your house and hire him, hire her. And this because people were calling me, hey, Mundano, I'm doing an event, I'm doing a party, or my condo doesn't recycle. Could you contact me with a speaker? I said, okay. And I was doing this alone. But then I say, no, I need to do it in a scale. So we create an app that connect over 5,000 way speakers in several cities. So we are, of course, it's a big challenge. We are learning during this process, long process, but this is really meaningful for me. And this was what I think the way speakers were my main teachers, because if they survive with the waste of the society and they are happy and they can, so they teach me a new way to understand life and also to see treasure in trash. And with that, I think all my next steps was inspired by what they do uh, to the planet.
That's such an inspiring
Such an
story,
inspiring.
Mundano. And tell me what's the scale? Because I did see when I was at your studio, I saw that you were trying to have to renewable energy, solar panels to run, to give some electricity to so people don't have to carry the burden. So I wanted to just check whether the statistic is correct, right? So my understanding is the Brazilian Ministry of Labor has admitted that the hardworking informal sector is responsible for the collection of up to 90% of the material that ends up in recycling sites. That's pretty incredible. Is that correct? And do you have a reflection on that?
Yeah, this number is correct or could be bigger. The recycling starts on the hands of these superheroes, the waste pickers. they are the ones that collect on, could be on a sidewalk or inside a mixed trash bin or everywhere they collect. This starts the recycle, and there is even cities that even don't have a recycling project, officially one, but there is waste speakers collecting and making a living out of it. And it's not because we have the support of the government or we have the support of the brands. No, it's because we have inequality really strong in Brazil. The social contrast, for example, is the hunger one of the responsibles of Brazil is their number one country recycling aluminum cans on earth.
Wow.
Is because we have, yes, it's more than Japan. It's not because of sport, it's because of the inequality. And aluminum cans worth more than plastic, for example, or than glass. So this is this number are right, is true, but still I want to say that recycling is not the solution. Recycling is the last thing to do. We need to reduce drastically our, for example, single plastic use. We need to reduce the amount of trash we produce because it's a lot. It's the most abundant material humanity produce. So it's a bigger problem. So of course there is bigger opportunity. We can solve the unemployment on the global south just by recognizing the waste speakers and stopping wasting money to a big company that will do only this: collect the the packaging and the materials and send to a landfill or open dump. We are spending money to dump money because it's money when you can create. So these numbers are really impressive. They are true, and they are our fuel to keep changing this and trying to find solution. As you mentioned, the solar energy or renewable energy for them to push the cart because it's a really heavy work. In this is what we are trying, because normally renewable energy, for example, in Brazil, is only for the richer population. People that have money can be sustainable. No, we want to bring these solutions for the ones that are really making good impact for the country and the planet.
So, Mundano, in Africa, they say it slightly differently. They say trash is cash, right? Which is the same thing about the value it. And then when you speak about plastic, one of the things that is sad that we've been pushing for a plastics treaty, and it goes one step forward, two steps backwards. But just to remind people listening that people forget that plastics is actually coming from oil. It's a part of the problem, right, of fossil fuels. So I want to make a transition then to 86% of the driving cause of climate change is our dependency on oil, coal, and gas, what we call climate change. And so what we call the fossil fuels. And the image I have, which has been shared by other people as well, is we've been addressing climate change in exactly the wrong way, in a way. So let me give you a thing and tell me what you think about it. Right? Let's say one day you go home, you go to the studio for work, and you come home in the evening, and as you open your front door, you see there's some water leaking from the kitchen, from the bathroom. You pick up the mop as you pass the kitchen, you go to the bathroom, you open the door, and you discover that you left the stopper on in the bath, and it was dripping, and over the course of the day, it overloaded and spilled over. What do you do first, Mundano? Do you take the mop and start wiping the floor, or do you turn off the tap, right? Obviously, you would turn off the tap. And the way we have been addressing the problem all these years is that we are leaving the root cause of the problem, which is oil, coal, and gas, and all the good things we do, and we need to do it, and we need to do it even on a bigger scale, as you say. But we can do all of that, but we don't shut the poison that is driving climate change, we don't go too far. So I'd like to, you've been quite a big voice in Brazil and elsewhere, the need for us to phase out fossil fuels. Can you just talk about your reading, especially in a complicated situation like in Brazil, where there's a high level of dependency on certain kinds of fossil fuels? Do you think this COP gives us an opportunity in November to get a breakthrough on the phase out of fossil fuels? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, great. Okay, I completely agree that we need to start this transition. This phase out must happen now. We have COP30 in the Amazon. It's a perfect opportunity for us to start a bigger movement to stop this self destruction. Because we need to be clear. We need first to create the assumption and follow the science, because is all the numbers said that the bigger impact comes by fossil fuels, come by petrol, oil coming from gas, and everything. So it's ridiculous that we still are avoiding the solution to close the tap of this destruction. So, but we need to assume that we are dependent now of oil. This is something we are using all the countries a lot. So we first thing is assume that. Second thing is that we need to stop creating more oil stations and oil. How do you say in English this? Because in Brazil we also are starting to. It's crazy that we have the COP30 in Brazil, and there is a discussion about explore the oil on the Amazon. That's a really
Amazon.
stupid thing that
Yeah.
Brazil
It's crazy.
is going. Yeah, so Brazil sadly is choosing that way. I really shame of this process, because Brazil should be a leader, because we use a lot of better energy resources than, for example, the global north. So we could be one of the leaders changing and starting really doing this phase out, because the transition is not like that. We need to
Yeah.
understand that
None of us is safe.
this is,
Absolutely.
yes, yeah, this is the first thing. Then we it will take years, maybe decades, but we need to start. And this first thing is stop the proliferation, stop the using these and creating new reserves and exploring this is making our world, our planet, change faster and faster. And climate emergency is reality, is killing people, is killing rivers, is everything. So I believe that we need to be more drastic. We need to assume. We need to listen to the scientists. We needed to listen. We need to open our eyes, but you can see what is happening. And of course, the oil, the gas, all these natural resources are the main drivers of this self-destruction. And we are part of the nature. So we need to understand that we need to have an equilibrium. We need to, this is key. And I think the opportunities for the world leaders on the conference, the climate conference like COP30 that we're gonna have now in Brazil, to take stronger positions, also companies and also the civil society that in a way could also start to change their routine, trying to also start the transition themselves, but also raising the voice, raising the pressure. Because when all of us, the civil society, stand up and say, please stop, this will change everything. So I think that's the time of a big change, because we cannot know the solution, know the problem, and then in 20 years we're gonna say to our kids, we knew the solution, we knew the problem, and we did nothing because we just want to make more money. What is that? So I believe that is way past the time to start a stronger move, stopping the oil and fossil fuel destructions that are happening. So let's do the phase out and let's use art because we need all the tools for that because it's a big challenge,
Absolutely.
right? It's
Absolutely.
not easy. So we're gonna need scientists, journalists, education, all the skills. But art in culture is for sure one of these tools.
Absolutely. So, and you know, the power of art, right? And I think when I met with you, told you the Ricky Rick Foundation for the promotion of Artivism and the work that we were doing to, you know, build this movement. And we were inspired by our son, who is a artist and rapper. Things he's told us was we were aiming all our messages at the brain and we were ignoring the heart, the body, and the soul. Because if you ask the question, why is it not succeeded in getting people to understand that climate change will only be addressed if % of the problem, which is fuels, is switched off, right? And the answer for that is, and I always say people like me are to blame, right? What I mean by that is boring activists like me who had not embraced the power of arts and culture early enough in the fullest sense. I've come to realize that we can talk science and we can talk 1.5 degrees and 350 parts per million and all this jargon that we speak about in the climate world, which a very small fraction of the people in the world actually understand that conversation. And so what the energizing global artivism movement, which you serve on the global coordinating committee for, says is that harnessing the power of arts and culture on its own will not deliver us salvation from the climate crisis and the intersecting crisis. However, failing to harness the power of arts and culture almost guarantees that we will fail. And so now there's lots of exciting things that you are cooking up together with others. But before you talk about some of the highlights of what you see happening between now and the COP meeting in the Amazon in Berlin, what for you, if somebody put a mic in front of you and said, Mundano, you are described, by the way, somebody described you to me when I was in Brazil, which I thought it was such a beautiful description. They said, Mundano is the artist, meaning like you're always, you're always doing your stuff in a way that you're trying to lift up indigenous artists, Afro-Brazilian artists, other people that you work with and so on. But what does the word for you, artivism, mean? Because, by the way, the name of our son's foundation is the Ricky Rick Foundation for the promotion of artivism, right? So for you, as one of the leading artists in the world, what is your definition of artivism? What does it mean to be an artivist at a very personal level?
Yeah, so it's hard to say in a few words, especially not in my native language, but I will try because it's so special. It comes out, I can feel it, like you said, from the heart. Uh, but as art, everyone can understand art. So art can be pretty. Art is beautiful. Art, sculpture. So, but and when we think about activism, sometimes people are, oh, activism is heavy, activism is
Hectic.
boring, this topic is boring, you talk about this, but when we manage to put the both things together, art and activism, and we merge them, then we have something really powerful and strong, because we can really talk to topics that are really the main challenge that we have, and sometimes it's boring to talk about. But with art, we can uh, make people feel it, make people understand it, make people feel emotions. Because otherwise, for example, we are all the time they say, "Oh, we are destroying our planet," or "We are burning the Amazon 800 hectares per day," or we don't have any idea about these numbers. We are full of numbers. If
Absolutely.
numbers become a landscape, we don't even understand it. It's just numbers. So art, these emotions, is key because when people feel it, they can do real changes because we need real changes and not only I have a new thought. No, we need change, and artivism is so powerful with that. We can say that artivism is a neology, so it's a new word, it's a merge of two words. Now there is dictionaries, for example, in the Spanish language, they dictionary they wrote artivism on the dictionary is
Wow.
as a new word. Wow. And when they post on social media, they even use an image of myself. That's why I understood that they have this on dictionary. But they're saying that is new, something new. If you compare to the art history, there is thousands of years since the cave paintings. And you see the cave paintings for me is graffiti and is street art, but was in the caves and we don't have city buildings and walls. But so every and also activism. So these things have thousands of years. Our history, or even more, we don't have any idea of this prehistorical part. But activism, we are using this for how many years? Something new. I keep explaining this to new words. But is what is amazing that now artivism, I can say from my Brazilian perspective, because my paintings or my murals or my carroça, all these examples now are getting into the schools in books, the school books. They are talking about artivism and using a big mural painted by the ashes of the Amazon on the mining waste. So this is beautiful. I feel that people are now getting in touch more and more with the artivism. I am seeing more artists saying, I am an artivist. So we are also inspiring more artists to be part of this massive change that we must do and that we will need all the tools, and artivism, of course, is one of that.
Thank you, Mundano. I should make a confession, right? That I first started using the term Artivism in 2021. And this was after I stepped down from as the head of Amnesty International, and I was asking myself the question, how can activism win faster and bigger, especially given the scale of the climate crisis? And suddenly people were like, a few people around me started saying, as Kumi would say, artivism. And I went and researched it. And actually the first use of the termism I can find comes from Chicano artists in Los Angeles, was one of the first early usages. And then there's a artist in Cuba, a human rights person, she's been using it and so on. So the term has been around for a long time, but not in the powerful centralizing of the term that we are seeing happening because of the efforts of artists themselves who are saying, we are not waiting for mainstream activists to get involved. We are living, breathing human beings who are reading our society, and we are responding based on the urgency of our analysis and what we are seeing. So that's the exciting thing, that there's an explosion. Every other week now I hear of something new, that's happening. Yesterday, you and I were on a call where we were talking to the Artivist network. Sorry, is a really great part of this global effort. So now you and many other people have put a lot of effort into making sure that this COP brings arts and culture right at the center, so that our leaders can understand that we don't carry our people with us on scale if we cannot understand the urgency, and we do it in non-jargonistic ways and so on. Can you, people who might be thinking about or planning to come to the COP in
Belém and for events in Salvador and so on. Can you just give us a bit of a flavor of how arts and culture work between now and the actual final day of the COP gathering?
Yes. So first, I think most of the people are only watching news about COP30, about I don't know, housing crisis, the price of everything, and that's true. There is a lot of problems, but we're gonna have a beautiful part of it is our culture, our art from, of course, artists from all over the world, but of course from also the ones here in Brazil also. So I am really thrilled, excited for the whole that art, culture, activism we're gonna have in this conference. Uh, Especially because we were having a climate conference COP in the last years, mostly on the global north, mostly in conservative countries, mostly in oil production countries and everything. So, coming again for the global, so from Latin America, I was on the COP20 in Lima, Peru, and was fabulous. So I really excited about this conference again, and
Can you tell us what
and I have
in Santarém?
Yes. So we are organizing with several groups immersions. I already did 3 in this year. There will be amazing alliance of people and on Santarém that will have several organizations, several indigenous nations and activists coming together in the Amazon before the COP and to co-create art and ideas to bring to the conference. We're gonna come by boat and we're gonna bring these masses in new ways for the people feel it, and we're gonna keep spreading in during the whole conference with art. So we're gonna come from the the Global Artivism Conference. We're gonna come directly, part of the participants inspired by all these big meeting, historical meeting of artivists in Salvador, with this amazing art there. We're gonna come to the conference. So these immersions and these collective constructions is so powerful, and you bring new energy to the conference. And of course, from the murals on the city, I also have murals in Belém and everything. But I also was asking myself, okay, I have the privilege, I have been following conference, I will be then doing some activism. But how now I am from the host country. So I need to support more artists to do the same, because people are didn't most of the people never went to the Amazon or just so I need to be a supporter. And then I realized, how can I have more voices, more activists, because everything also is expensive or far away. So, and then I realized, and we're gonna build, it's gonna happen, a historic exhibition of ashes of the Amazon. So we're gonna use when sadly we burn our forests, I will collect the ashes, the charcoal. I already use this pigment. So this will be the pigment of all the artworks. We're gonna have hundreds of artworks from dozens of countries. I don't know how many countries gonna have, but will be a global exhibition collecting the destruction of a forest that is a most biodiversity forest on earth, the Amazon. We're gonna have the most biodiversity forest ashes and use as a pigment to create artivism. That could be something really beautiful, that could be a protest, that could be a message, that could be anything. And I believe that will be so powerful, people will feel it. So then, Of course, we're gonna use the pigment, the ashes of the Amazon, to paint banners, to write messages on the street. So I'm trying to see the pigment of the forest as we're gonna be on the Amazon as one of the voices of the forest to make people feel the destruction that that we are facing right now. And just mention that these months that are coming before the COP is the records, is the months that most burn the forest, because now is the dry season. So maybe sadly this will become a news because we keep burning our forests. And it's not to talk about only the forest, just the pigment. We can talk about the just transition of renewable energy or mitigation, adaptation. We can talk about oil, solar, everything using the ashes. So it's not only about forest, it's about surviving on this planet. So I am really excited to the power of all these artists that we're gonna create this exhibition, and as also a documentation of what we are facing in 2025, the opportunities that we have, the solutions that we have, and will be amazing to have artists from the Amazon, indigenous artists, artists from the global south, from Latin America, from the global north. Everyone's getting together to spread a voice of a massive change that we must do. And the opportunity is now. Yes.
That's so encouraging to hear, Mundano. I just want to quickly say that if I were to summarize what you've said, there's a range of different things that are happening. So one is a gathering of art in Santarém, which is in the same state, where LM is. And then they're going to sail 3 days to take a message right to the COP before it starts. And then folks will stay there, and some of the folks will come to Salvador. And in Salvador, from the 3rd to the 5th of November, we'll have the second global Artivism convening. And just to say, we were really overwhelmed, as you know, Mundano, that we ended up with, we had 40 workshop slots, and we ended up with 605 applications from 98 countries. So that's indication that the appetite and the time has come for the power of arts and culture to really make its most impact. I just wanted to make one point, and then we move to asking you to share an artistic sort of offering, which we talked about earlier. So, one of the things that we didn't talk about, right, which I just wanted to just get a quick response from you on. I think one of the most critical roles that the creative and artistic actually plays is to help us to imagine worlds that are yet to be, right? The example that gets quoted sometimes these days is, when Start came out, they had a thing there that looked like an iPad. And everybody thought, oh my God, that's just cheesy science fiction. Today we have an iPad, more or less similar to that, right? That's probably not the best example. But the important thing is, and assuming you agree, that a critical role of artists in this moment is to inspire, to energize us, to make us feel good about what we are trying to do, but it's also about helping us imagine futures that are yet to be born. What's your take on Dano?
Yeah, I agree. I think art help us to imagine the future that we want to live. So in a way, it's more like a vision. Visionary artists also is so important because there is people, millions and billions on the planet that are just thinking individually in this moment and are just trying to continue their lives. And I believe that the artists, and also with the vision of 98 countries artists. So this is the beauty, the diversity that we're gonna have on the global Artivism convening in Salvador, on in Santarém, like you mentioned, and of course at the COP conference, and not only Blue Zone or Green Zone, we're also gonna have the meetings of social movements from all over the world in Latin America and Amazon will be there. Also create the civil society point and perspective and arts, culture. Also, let's talk is not only drawing and painting, is music, is dancing, is theater, is all the language. Nah? I am,
So
of course, a visual artist, painter, but the beauty of art is the language itself. And this is a way to express our how we want to live in this planet, how it can be better, have a new uh, way to live, a rhythm and equilibrium that could make we have a longer life on this planet, because we are in the planet for thousands of years, but was on the last 50, 60, 70 years that we destroyed most part of it. So it's getting everything so fast. So this is what is really annoying us, how fast is the destruction. So let's use art to also show that as we can destroy, also we can regenerate, we can reforestate our country, our planet with the same energy we have to destroy. We can recreate a
to build.
new planet that it has more rights, dignity, and also quality to live life with equilibrium with the nature, because we are nature.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much for that. So I'm sad to say that we are almost out of time, but we are ending in the spirit of all that you've said. We are ensuring that we end with some artistic offering. And so I would hand it over to you to share a piece of writing from, I understand, an indigenous leader in Brazil that inspires you. So over to you to read that now.
Yeah, so I choose to read a small message, but with a big meaning from Ailton Krenak. That is one of the most important indigenous leaders that we have in Brazil, that I am really proud to be also a friend. Also, we already met in Belém, and it's so powerful. So Ailton Krenak also published several books that I really encourage you to go for read. And here I collected two messages that are trying us to teach us with this. So I will read here. So humanity must see itself as part of nature, or it will keep destroying it. So he's saying that we are part of the nature. If you don't understand that, we're gonna keep destroying ourselves. It's a self-destruction.
Absolutely.
And he always write the things with so much passion. Also, writing is art. Writing is artivist. So Ailton Krenak is an artivist. Sometimes we are saying that we are using this artivist word more recent, but we have older artivists doing
Absolutely.
this for ages. Yes. And another sentence that he wrote in the book, I also feel that's in the same direction. So that's why I'm bringing is here. So rivers, forests, and mountains are relatives, not resources. And that's so powerful because he
So
teaches me,
powerful.
because we always say, water is now a resource, solar is our resource. So the white man's, the not indigenous people, we see nature as a resource. So wood is a resource. This is a resource. It's not resource, they are relatives. So we must live good as a family. So this is so powerful. So I'd like to
Beautiful.
bring his voice here to also to the end of our amazing talk. It's a pleasure always to listen and talk to you, Kumi. And I believe that we need to listen more the indigenous people because they are the ones that are living in equilibrium with nature, and they are they are part of our solution. We need to, and COP30 will be a perfect moment to listen then and to also to amplify their voices. So I'm happy to bring this here. Thank you very much, Kumi.
Thank you so much, Mundano. Mundano, I say sometimes when I'm with large audiences, I say, folks, assuming that we did not address climate change as the science told us we should, and we ignore it, we drag our feet, and the worst happens. Because right now, the three words the science uses is catastrophic, runaway, irreversible climate change. Already we're in the first phases of catastrophe. We're not already in irreversible and runaway, though sadly we're moving in the direction, right? But assuming, I say to the audience, if we are the last 200 people left, climate change, the worst happens, and then some young person amongst us says, hey, let's put in a capsule everything we learned from our experience here on the planet so that if human life emerges again, people won't make the same mistakes. The two things I say is what we will put in the capsule is one, is that the people that history and dominant history considered to be uncivilized was actually the most civilized peoples that we've had, because they understood that humanity's safety, security, prosperity, joy can only be achieved in a mutually interdependent relationship with nature. And if I could also share that there's another proverb from the Cree in North America, the indigenous community in North America, where they say only when the last tree has been cut, the last fish has been caught, the last river has been polluted, will man realize that we cannot drink money. So let's hope that all your efforts and the wonderful people involved in the climate justice movement, in the Artivism movement, and many other movements will prevent the worst from happening. And so long as people like you and I and thousands of others refuse to give up, refuse to sit down, refuse to be silent, I think we have hope and we have the possibilities to turn things around. And so thank you so very much for making time. I know how busy you are, and I'm so looking forward to working with you in November in Salvador as well as in Billund. So folks, thank you so much. I hope you have been as inspired as I've been listening to Mundano, his journey. If you haven't checked out Pimp My Caroso, please go and learn more about it. Maybe there are waste speakers in your country that could benefit from it. And Mundano is super generous with his skills. If you reach out to him, he probably will be able to give you advice and so on. So thanks so much, everybody, for listening to this episode of Power, People, and Planet with one of the most amazing artists in the world today, Mundano. And if you enjoyed this episode, and if you'd like to stay in touch and be part of this movement of bringing arts, culture, and activism and addressing the fossil fuel phase out, then please like, subscribe, and share a review about what you thought. We'd really like to have a conversation going on from the things that Mundano and others have said. But wherever you are in the world, be safe. Recognize the moment of history that we are in is a tricky one. Some call it, we're dealing with eco-anxiety, climate anxiety, and so on. But today's podcast, inspired by Mundano, I want to say something to end with these words. In the moment of history that we find ourselves in, pessimism is a luxury we simply cannot afford. And the pessimism that justifiably emerges from our analysis, our observations, and our lived experiences can, must, and should be responded to by the optimism of our thought, our creativity, our action, our courage, and our sense of humanity. Be safe, continue to do whatever you're doing to push forward for a fairer world, and thanks once again, Mundano. Thank you. Peace out.